This is 88.7 FM WHCL out of Clinton, New York. I'm Kate, and I believe Brussels sprouts are superior to all other vegetables.
And I'm Rachel, and hazelnut is my favorite coffee flavor.
And you're listening to Liberal Arts and Crafts.
What's up, Kate?
Not a lot. How's your Sunday morning?
It's going so well because a certain angel brought me Opus brunch and an Opus coffee this morning because I didn't want to walk all the way to Commons to feed myself. So.
That's fair. I have listeners, we're recording this on Sunday morning in case you can't tell. I am having this sinking conspiracy theory that the school is trying to starve all Darksiders because there are no dining options available on the dark side on the weekends besides Opus.
Also, this weird thing that Res Life does is they won't let people who live in the suites on the dark side go on the 7-meal plan because apparently our kitchen doesn't count as a full kitchen, whatever that means, even though we have an oven, a stove, a microwave, and a fridge. So I don't know what's up with that. But...
I don't know. I've frequently wished that I could go on a smaller meal plan, except that I don't have a car, and so I wouldn't be able to get groceries very easily.
That is a very important component of
to be able
yourself.
To access food.
That is crucial. All right, Kate. Well, it looks like both of our light bulbs are pretty similar, and they're positive, which is...
That's because I saw yours, and I was like, uh-oh, I need to make mine more positive. So I changed mine to match yours.
We're all about pragmatism here at Liberal Arts and Crafts.
Well, I can start with mine. So what I wrote down was, I know more than I think I do, and therefore I will be okay. And this stems from a Career Center internship panel that I was a part of this week for communications. So I've kind of put off thinking about post-grad. It's just like a thing that I will deal with later, and that is fine. But every now and then I get this creeping doubt that, like, what if I don't, like, get a job? What if I can't live anywhere? What if I make no money? And, like, obviously those are feelings that everyone feels, but they resurrect themselves every now and then. And I was asked to speak at this communications internship panel as, like, one of the panelists giving advice to other people about how to get an internship in communications. And I was like, why are they asking me to do this? I'm so unqualified. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I got up there on the panel. It was 4 of us, 3 people who did more literary work. So, like, one of them was like 2 of them were like publishing, and then editorial things, and one was like magazine stuff. And I was the only person doing any other type of media for podcasting. And it was a weird experience where I was like forced to give advice to other people on something that I didn't feel confident about. Like, I had no background going into podcasts before the summer and all of this stuff. And it actually made me realize how much I do know, and therefore that I know more than I think I do about applying to jobs and about the industry, because people were asking, like, me questions about, like, my advice. So the roundabout way of saying this was that doing this panel helped me feel a lot better about post-grad, because it made me realize that, like, I know more than I think, and I can accomplish more than I think, and I've also, like, I've done more than I think. If that made any sense. I was so not eloquent.
No, that does make a lot of sense. We actually had a very similar conversation in group last week.
Okay.
Where our group leader, Sarah...
Back to group.
Back to group. Kate's still jealous, guys. Where group leader Sarah was talking about, like, playing academic catch-up and feeling really guilty, and she was like, I don't know if you guys know this, but, like, you're doing much better than you think you are all the time. She's like, every time I leave group, I'm just, like, astounded at how strong everyone is. And it's so hard for you to see that. But, like, you're doing way better than you think you are all the time.
Yeah. I always tend to think of, like, my internships and things or my resume as being really lame compared to everyone else's. And so it helps to be given the perspective that, like, you're not as lame as you think you are. So... this also goes out to all of our listeners out there. We bet that you're doing better than you think you are.
Well, mine is related. I just wrote for my light bulb, I'm happy.
Oh.
So one of the things that I've been saying to a lot of people this semester who come to me with the similar problem being that there's some sort of problem that they're dealing with, they don't know what it is. They're like, oh, I'm doing fine and my classes aren't even that hard, but like I can't bring myself to do the work, or I'm just tired all the time, or I'm grumpy, or I'm angry. And my go-to, which I think is true for all of the seniors out there, is we are constantly subliminally processing graduation, and sometimes it comes up, sometimes it doesn't, but it's
Yeah.
always there and it's weighing on you very heavily. But the other day, I was having dinner on Thursday with Daphne, and I had a revelation. And I went to the international line and I got this like shrimp po' boy sandwich, and I was eating it, and I thought to myself, wow, the sandwich is so good. And then I had the salad that came with it, and I was like, wow, the salad is so good. And then I had some like cottage cheese, and I was like, wow, this cottage cheese is so good. And like, wow, these fries are so good. And I just like something like clicked in me, and it like turned over, and then I got like a whole second helping, and then like a whole third helping, and I was like guzzling this food, and then I got some like ice cream, and I warmed up a cookie, and I was just like elated. And I haven't been that happy all semester. And I came to the realization that like just as I'm always subliminally processing graduation, there's also this like veneer of happiness that I have that I don't always realize is there. I kind of think as like my baseline to be kind of like pessimistic, realistic. Like I'm always just kind of like a little bit grumpy and disillusioned, but like there is some sort of layer of happiness in there. And I tapped into that at dinner because I just had this really good shrimp sandwich, and I was like, wow, life is good sometimes.
This sounds like something from Proust where he like eats a Madeleine cookie and he's like, my life is perfect.
I like really should read Proust.
I should read Infinite Jest.
I know, I was just gonna bring that up. Yeah, but anyway, so
That's a really good reminder, because I've been operating on that like subliminal graduation thing for a long time, like trying to exist with like a big workload this semester and trying to do a long distance relationship. It's been, and like graduating soon, all of those have been weighing on me, and I feel like I've had this like constant state of like stressed and grumpy and like more like stressed and irritable. I've been very irritable recently, and I thought that I wasn't happy, but like when you say that, like I have so much to be grateful for, and I am happy. I'm just not tapping into it. And like in a lot of philosophy classes, they talk about how you can't be elated all the time. Like you can't exist at that state. You have a baseline happiness, and then you only feel when you relatively sway from that baseline. And so I bet we have a very high functioning baseline. We just don't realize it most of the time because we're focusing on all the little trivial things.
yeah, which seem way more important.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a good moment for me, and I wasn't expecting that. But
I'm glad that the shrimp shrimp
po' bay.
I'm glad that the shrimp po' bay enlightened you.
Yeah, when I went up for seconds, I was talking to the guy, and I was like, "This sandwich is really good," and he was like, "Okay."
It's like I'm just doing my job.
Okay, so I am really happy to have this jam because I found it literally last night, yesterday afternoon. And I had another jam here that like wasn't really that new and wasn't that great, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to talk about this jam I don't even really like in the podcast. But I found I found another jam I'm obsessed with. So this song is Another Story by The Head and the Heart. There's two reasons why this is my jam. One is because I'm going to see The Head and the Heart in concert in like 2-3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
With Emily. We're going to Burlington. We're taking a little road trip because her friend Daisy goes to school in Vermont. So we're going to meet up with her friend Daisy and her friend Gianna, who are like some of her best friends from home, who she's been talking
so
about
fun.
since like freshman year, and I get to meet them, and it's going to be so great. Ugh. So that's very exciting. And also, I am excited that I found this song because I think it is one of the songs that Susie always plays in her yoga classes every week. That I've always wanted to Shazam, but I'm like in a yoga pose, so I can't Shazam it. But I'm like, oh, I really like this song. It gives me the deep feels. I wonder what it is.
We should ask her for playlists sometimes.
I know. I really want to ask her for her playlists. So I was just shuffling The Head and the Heart. I was like, oh, I should listen to them to like get hype for the concert. And I came across this song, and I was like, this is the song that gives me the feels. So I really like it. And there's this one part in the chorus where the lead singer does this like really ethereal falsetto, and he says, "Can we go back as it once was?" And it's very nostalgic and like breathy, and I love it. So
I'm so excited to listen to it. I love the Head and Heart. They're like, I used to listen to exclusively really bad pop music, which is related to my jam this week. But when I was a freshman in high school, my friend Olivia, shout out to Olivia, burned 300 alternative music songs onto my iTunes because I told her I need to revamp what I listen to. I can't listen to this bad pop music anymore. I'm in high school. I'm a big girl now. And she gave me like 40 Head and Heart songs, and that was how I got like hooked on them, was because she had like forced me to just erase my entire iTunes and move to this new set of songs.
Oh,
so
that's so sweet.
I don't know this one though.
This is very similar to my sophomore year when our friend Meg, shout out to Meg, also loves trashy pop music, and she came to me as like a weird alt music junkie, and she was like, "You need to revamp my music taste." So I made her a Spotify playlist called For Magdalena, which was like a nickname that I gave her like 2 years ago, and there's like 200 songs in there that I just kept adding, and there is a lot of Head in the Heart.
Wow,
so
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I would love a recommended Spotify playlist for you.
Okay, I'm really excited to talk about your jam because it
too.
is so funky and catchy.
So, if anyone saw the Grammys, Bruno Mars gave a great performance of one of his new-ish songs called That's What I Like. And for some reason, I'm, always culturally, like, out of it, irrelevant, and didn't know that the song was out and popular right now. And heard it for the first time, and I don't even usually like Bruno Mars. And this has to be one of the catchiest Bruno Mars songs I've ever heard. And so we need to talk about his Grammys performance, though, because he may be one of the smoothest men alive. Sorry, Greg. Shout out to Greg. You're also smooth. But Bruno Mars, this was like amazing. Like, I don't know how you could perform for millions of people and look that collected. And he's seen perfectly while doing these like super smooth, funky dance moves. Like, he didn't even look like he could have been doing this in like his bathroom mirror. He didn't look fazed at all by what was happening around him. And he was wearing, okay, I really liked his outfit, but it literally looked like a tarp. Like, he had cut a hole in a tarp and like shoved his head through it. And his background dancers were also wearing tarps. So they're all wearing these like tarp sweatsuits and singing the song. And so it's like funky song. It's like this like typical crooner kind of thing. And then there's a part near the end of the song where they like break it down and the whole like mood of the song changes and it gets like really slow and funky. And he walked out onto this like aisle in the middle of the crowd, and like Jennifer Lopez is there like freaking out, and like John Legend is there. It was so weird. And he with the background vocal people, he's like, "Let's break it down for you." And they did this like beautiful, like I don't think it was a cappella, but like jazzy chords, and like I was so impressed. I was blown away by this performance. So long story short, I'm very excited to listen to That's What I Like this week because I've actually have a jam this time and I'm very pumped about it.
So I changed my vignette last minute from a vignette of me with like 8 other people to a vignette of just me alone. So
Perfect!
Woo! Because I don't need nobody. So my vignette happened also last night. What's up? It was so nice yesterday, weather-wise.
Beautiful.
It was so beautiful. For anyone who is not from upstate New York, it is usually bitter here till like late April. And yesterday, for some reason, it was like close to 50 degrees. There was no wind.
It was like the first day of spring.
The sun was beating down on me. It was incredible. So I was walking home from the library at like 7:30. It was dark, and it was so warm. I mean, it was like 45 degrees, but it felt like so warm. And I was like, you know what? Like, I need to spend some time outside. Like, it's too nice for me to not spend time outside. So I went home. I popped open a beer. I put it in a glass. I put my earbuds in, and I was listening to Another Story by The Head and the Heart. And I walked all the way out to Minor Field, and I sat on the bleachers. And I listened to my, like, I have this one playlist on Spotify of all of the songs that, like, make my soul, like, swell. they like make me feel like greater than myself. And I played that playlist, and I just sat there for like half an hour and just stargazed by myself and listened to that playlist and just enjoyed the weather.
That sounds like the perfect night.
It was so nice. And then I got cold, so I went inside because it was
Yeah.
very cold. But I was listening to like The Fray and like Sleeping at Last and like One Republic and like
On the crawl last night, every time we changed stops, or I had a Hamilton's crawl last night, and whenever we walked to a new building, I was like stargaze. I was walking like this, like with my head up the whole time, just because the sky was like so clear last night.
it was so beautiful. There were like no clouds. I stepped outside and I looked up and I like gasped like audibly. I was like
I love stargazing. It's like my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, so that's my little vignette, but it was just such a treat to like get that weather, and then I just spent some time outside by myself and
I love it.
also realized that I am happy. Throwback to my light bulb.
TBT.
So that was great.
Okay, so my vignette is related to my Proust class again. Don't worry, I'm not going to be talking about pedophilia this week. It is very positive. We are currently reading and discussing The Sound and the Fury by Faulkner. Have you read it, Rachel?
No, and I don't really know anything about Faulkner, though I should. So why don't you enlighten me?
Yes. So Faulkner's writing style can be infuriating, but it's also incredible.
Funny,
So,
The Sound and the Fury.
so The Sound and the Fury is 4 narratives, and they're all talking about the same relative events or story. But they increasingly make more sense as narratives as you go on, and they're basically layering over each other. So the first one is told from the perspective of a man who is mentally ill. I think he has Down syndrome or something, and the narrative is like really hard to follow because it's trying to give things from his perspective, so things are like jumping back and forth. And then the second perspective is by someone who's very distressed, and so there's a lot of, again, flashing of memory. So you basically spend the first 150 pages of the book trying to figure out what's going on, like who are even the characters, and it's really difficult to get into. But Faulkner has this really characteristic writing style of like not using punctuation, and he'll like lapse into poetry sometimes. He like does this dialogue, like when it's like a rapid argument between two characters, it's like a block of text. And it's just he said, and then I said, and then she said, and then I said, and then he said. And it's crazy to read. And he also uses like italics. There's a bunch of different like character, like background, different people, like great personalities. And then he'll also use these like, he'll go from like 3 really short sentences in a row to like one sentence that's like a page long. Okay, so long story short, he has this crazy distinct writing style. And there is a yearly national contest, this Faulkner parody contest. It's like, I don't know, it's put on by like the Faulkner like newsletter or something. And they have this contest where anyone can submit a 500-word parody of Faulkner. So the winner is the person who is, 1, funny, but 2, can imitate Faulkner's writing style the best, which is like really like you can tell when someone's imitating it well. And so in my Proust class is this man named Alan who plays clarinet in Symphoria. And so Alan's like an older man, and he knows my professor through the orchestra and through the chorus and things like that. And so Alan read Proust with us last year, and now he's in this class with us. And he won the Faulkner parody contest in, I think, 2001 or something. And he is like a guru when it comes to Faulkner. So he was so excited we were reading this book, The Sound and the Fury. And he went up there and like taught us all this stuff about Faulkner. And it was like so cool to hear someone so passionate about this like one author in particular. But then he decided to read for us his winning parody, his winning 500-word parody. And I was like, oh, okay, kind of ready to listen to it. And the second he opened his mouth, I was like, this is genius. It was unbelievable, Rachel. So it was 500 words, and it's called, like, Quentin gets his first parking ticket. So he took one of the characters in The Sound and the Fury and took a really trivial situation, getting a parking ticket, and made it sound like it was it belonged in the book. Like the writing style was exactly the same. And his delivery was so passionate of his own piece. It was like, no wonder he won this contest. And so I was trying to find the whole thing to read on this, which would have been long, but I couldn't find it. But I did find the first sentence. So this is a glimpse of A, what Faulkner sounds like, and B, what Alan is capable of doing in imitating Faulkner. So here we go. For the 5th time in as many minutes, the bright shapes slowly passed us through the somnolent dust, each moving left to right, each in its ordered place. As we once again passed beneath the grim and merciless statue of the Confederate soldier, that still unravished sentinel of quietude, his implacable marble hand forever shading the inscrutable carven eyes, our hearts sank a little deeper, not because we now realized that our quest was futile, but because it always had been, because we now seemed doomed forever to circle this postage stamp of land like slow planets orbiting some inescapable star.
Wow.
What
the
He's
frick?
imitating an author. Isn't that amazing?
Oh my god.
And he goes on to write about getting a parking ticket. And like he has like I said, there's this dialogue. The arguments are like this block of text where it's just like he said, she said, he said, whatever. He has this argument between Quentin and his dad about getting the parking ticket, and he's like, I didn't mean to do it. The dad's like, oh, I think you did mean to do it. Oh, but I have sinned greatly. Will this be forever on my conscience? And it's like 300 words of this like back and forth thing about a parking ticket. It was amazing.
Oh my god. Now
So,
I really
yeah.
want to read the whole thing.
I want to too. I've been looking for it. So my homework assignment for Tuesday is to write my own parody of Faulkner, which is going to be so hard to do.
Oh my gosh.
But if you have any suggestions of topics to write about, I was thinking of writing like about making a fairy tale into a parody of Faulkner. So I'm trying to think of like a story that already exists and then like put it in the context of like trying to write like this. But like I was thinking like Humpty Dumpty or something, like something really silly that you then write with like this crazy language. So that is my quest for Tuesday.
I'll let you know if I come up with anything.
Yes. And listeners, I'll let you know if I also come up with anything.
Listeners,
Next
email
time.
us at libartsandcrafts@gmail.com if you have any ideas about what Kate should write about for her homework.
Maybe it'll be my scribble for next week. Who knows?
Do you hear that, Kate?
What do you hear, Rachel?
It's the sound of another terrible musical interlude.
I bet everyone's really excited. I am.
525,600
podcasts. That is a number we never will hit. 525,600 podcasts. We're underfunded and don't own equipment. In scribbles, in light bulbs, exchanges and cups of coffee. In minutes, in hours of public embarrassment. In 525,600 podcasts. How do we segue from arts to crafts? How about this? What do you think? Do you like it? How about this? It's time for crafts. It's time for crafts. This gets more elaborate every time. Under the Sea was so elaborate.
This, kids, is the definition of extra. I'm just gonna come out and say that my scribble this week is a joke.
Mine doesn't exist either, so just keep going.
I didn't really have a real one, but I guess I could kind of say that the scribbles that I write in the margins of this book that I'm reading right now for my thesis are kind of nice.
Oh.
So I'm reading this book, La Casa de los Espíritus, for my thesis. It is a magical realist novel by Isabel Allende. It's very interesting and very sad. A dog was just murdered.
You told me.
It
was brutal.
Very tragic. But it's a very interesting storyline, and it's very intricate, and there's a lot of weird overlapping love stories and like paranormal events, and I'm doing that thing where I'm so into a book I'm like writing my reactions in the margin. I'm
Yeah.
like, what the frick, or like, oh my gosh, so cool, or like 50 question
Or like
marks.
LOL, LOL. I do that all the
Yeah,
time.
I wrote that too. Yeah, I had a conspiracy theory in like the first 100 pages, and then my conspiracy theory was confirmed like 60 pages later. So I wrote confirmed.
That's hilarious.
So it's slow going because it's long and it's in Spanish, but I'm trying to have more fun with it. And the more fun I have, the easier it is to read and the faster I read it, which is good because I need to finish it by Wednesday. And I have like 300 pages left. So, but it's
Well, my scribble is also kind of a joke, but it's kind of an experiment too. My scribble is that I haven't been scribbling because my to-do list is I have this eternal to-do list, and every week of my planner is another like 2-page spread. And every time I switch to the next week, I have to transfer everything on the to-do list from the previous week to the new set of 2 pages. And I've been transferring the same 15 items from the first week of school every single week. And I never do any of them because they're not urgent. Because, like, I'd rather do all the urgent things. But they're all scribble related things. I have write a letter to my cousin, write a birthday card to my friend, answer my, like, emails, respond to the Facebook messages that have been lingering there for months that I haven't gotten to. Like, it's scribbles are so hard for me. Like writing something that doesn't seem like a priority, I will just put off indefinitely because I think that it will take so much longer than it will. Like I'm like, write a letter, that'll take me forever, but really it would take me probably like 20 minutes. So my scribble is actually also an experiment. I now have 2 experiments this week. So one of them is to tackle at least 2 of the items on my eternal to-do list each week because it's getting really ridiculous.
I used to have an eternal to-do list and it stressed me out too much, so I just gave up.
You just got rid of it.
So I just got rid of it. So you're already doing better than I am.
It's like I feel like they're all things I need to do eventually, and I don't want to forget about them. So I'm like, oh, I'll just like keep them there. But I never do them, and they're all writing tasks. Write an email to this person, write a letter to this person. I should really just take care of them. When we talk about experiments in a second, it's really related.
Well, I believe in you, Kate.
Thank you.
My experiment was something that I tried to do this week a little bit. I tried to hold myself accountable, which I know is something you have been trying to do in your life recently.
Or find people to hold me accountable.
That's true, because shout out to Gretchen Rubin, we are both obligers.
Yes.
So we're very, very bad at adhering to goals that we set for ourselves because they feel like they don't have a consequence. But if other people tell us to do stuff, we're like, done.
Exactly.
So I've been trying to hold myself accountable in going to all the things that I need to go to this week because I've just been skipping out on stuff that seems non-essential.
Yeah.
So I went to all my appointments this week. I went to all my meetings. I did a lot of like Planned Parenthood stuff. I did not cancel my thesis meeting, which I did a week ago. I went to it and it was good and it made me feel better. So I think paradoxically, the more busy you are, the more in control you feel. Like if I end up skipping a lot of things and I lounge around under like the guise of self-care, it can get a little funky if I'm like stuck in that place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I have a hard time with that too. Like if I say that I need, like, if I skip this one thing, then I'll have more time to do the things I need to do. But usually the hour that I skipped the thing, I'm not productive at all.
Yeah, and then you feel guilty for skipping the thing because the thing was, like, kind of important. And it's like, what did I spend that hour doing? I was maybe in bed on Facebook and, like, I napped for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Like, I do that with the gym all the time. If it's like, if I don't have time to go to the gym, I need to work on this thing for an hour. Like, I don't really get much done in that hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully this will carry on into the coming weeks and I will stop skipping things.
Yeah. Well, my experiment is kind of a fail that has been happening recently and has gotten pretty tragic. And now I'm setting this as a future experiment. I need to plan ahead, especially when it comes to gifts for people or birthdays. I realize that it's someone's birthday or that it's a holiday, like 2 days before the actual thing. But since we are isolated in the middle of nowhere in like Clinton, New York, I never have time to get something together in time. And because the people that I'm thinking of are usually people off campus, not like my friends on campus. I don't have time to mail anything that will get there in time. So, for instance, Valentine's Day was this last week, and I realized it was Valentine's Day on Sunday and it was on Tuesday, and I was like, oh, wow, I should really mail something to Budapest. That'll take only 3 weeks to get there. And then I realized that the thing that I wanted to mail, I had to order, and it came in the mail yesterday. So I haven't even mailed it yet. And Valentine's Day was like 5 days ago. And so I was like, wow, okay, that was really bad. Well, like, hopefully if Greg mailed me something, it will get here late too. And of course, I got 2 things on the dot, like that morning, and he had like planned them months ago. And I was like, wow, I'm the worst. I like haven't even put your gift in the mail yet. And then I was like, okay, it's fine. It was only one thing. And then I realized that my friend's birthday was a month ago, and I bought her a card and never wrote it. This is one of the scribbles I haven't done. Her birthday was February 4th. And by the time I mail this card, it's going to be March 4th, you know? Like, and then, so I was sitting here like, okay, I've been pretty bad about this stuff, but this is an experiment I can do because Greg's birthday is in March, which means I need to have the gift in my hands before I leave for spring break, which means I need to order it in like the next few weeks if I'm going to order something. And if I don't, I'm screwed. And like my dad's birthday is coming up, like all my friends have birthdays coming up. I just really need to like look at the date and then flip 3 weeks back in my planner and like write it down so that I like am thinking ahead. Ongoing problem for me.
Well, that's a good idea to like look for when it is and then write it down before it happens. So it's like in your mind.
And I do that with like other things, just not gifts. So like if I have like an exam coming up, I'll write in like the week before, I'll write like make flashcards for the exam or something so that I'm like reminded that like I can't wait until the last minute. I mean, sometimes I still don't do it, but I never do that with birthdays and stuff. So I'll like flip the page and I'll be like, oh, great, it's too late for me to deal with that thing.
Thanks, past Kate. Very helpful. Well, I hope it works out for you. Sorry, Greg.
I'm very sorry, Greg. I'll work harder for your birthday.
I am really excited about my exchange. It's also kind of a cop-out.
That's okay.
This whole podcast
This is our
episode
show.
has been a bunch of, there's no rules. We make the rules. No adults, no bedtime. I just wrote down the word Jack with an exclamation point.
Aw.
And this is in reference to Jack Goodman, who is the newest adopted member of my suite.
Hi, Jack.
Hi, shout out
My
to Jack.
name's Kate. Nice to meet you.
So Jack is an angel, and we know him because last year, 2 years ago, last year, before Emily graduated, she lived in the co-op, and all of us, meaning like 306, like our internal friend group, was abroad. So Emily became really good friends with this girl, Annalise, who lived in the co-op. And one of Annalise's really good friends is Jack. So they all became friends. And then Annalise lived in our suite this past semester. Now she's abroad. Shout out to Annalise. I miss you. So Jack started like hanging out around our suite a little bit. And for some reason, even though we're weird as all get out, he was like, I want to be friends with you. And we were like, okay. So now we're like cultivating this new friendship, which is strange because we're all graduating. So it's kind of sad that like now we're becoming such good friends and like it's the last semester. But he's so sweet, and I'm counting this as an exchange because I'm just like referring to all the collective conversations that we've all had with him over the past like few weeks. And he's been in our suite for so many like sweet hangs. He bought us like a bunch of cheese that he brought over for sweet hang.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, he's so nice. So he lives in Millbank, so he's not super far. And he's been coming over a lot recently. And we really love him. He's like our new son. We call him our son. So
this is like the senior year is like freshman year, just like making new friends.
yeah. Does that connect to your exchange?
It does.
Tenuously?
It does not, but mine is based. Let's see. Mine is more of a nostalgia thing. My exchange was, so we had this Hamilton's call last night, and Matt Dickstein, my friend who's a senior in our group, who showed me Lullaby Birdland, as we remember from last episode, was sitting on the couch in my common room, and I like walked up and I plopped down on the couch next to him to talk to him, and he threw his arm over my shoulders, and I had this wave of nostalgia, and I was like, whoa, it was like deja vu, us sitting there with his arm around my shoulders at a party, like ready to talk to each other. And I was like, what is this from? And I realized with like a tear in my eye, I realized what this nostalgia moment was. It was freshman spring, I think. Had just like were freshmen in the Hamiltons in our a cappella group together, and we had an invitational at NYU. And so all of the Hamiltons drove down to New York City and performed with this all boys a cappella group there called Mass Transit, who were like phenomenal. And then we all went to their like crazy like New York City penthouse afterwards for a party, and we were like, what is this? So we get there, and it was so awkward. It's like this group of like really like these like super theatrical guys, like their performance, they're all really like loud, and like their performance was really theatrical, and our group was really chill. So we're at the apartment, and like there's all these guys running around yelling, and we don't know any of them. And then our group is like, I'm like this awkward freshman girl and like really insecure. And so I didn't know who to talk to, and I saw Matt sitting on the couch, and I sat down next to him, and freshman Matt threw his arm around my shoulders, and we had like a 30-minute heart to heart. And it was like, in my memory, when we became really good friends was this moment. And like we like had like conversations before, but we were talking about like our like respective love lives. But it was like, I was saying like I was like a freshman, and I was like, I like feel so insecure around guys, like I don't know how to flirt with them, I no one likes me. And Matt was like giving me advice, and then he was like, I'm like having a hard time finding someone too. And we just had this like great like moment together at this party surrounded by people we didn't know. We like little freshmen found each other and had this great conversation. And so I sat down next to him at this like Hamilton's crawl and like turned to talk to him about like, again, about girls. I was like, tell me about your new girlfriend. And like, I was just like, oh, it's like when we were freshmen, and it was so cute. So it was a really sweet exchange that I had this week.
Oh my God, there are tears in your eyes.
I
right
know,
now.
it's just so cute.
That's so sweet. Did you tell him that? Were you like, hey,
I did.
this-
I immediately was like, Matt, this reminds me just like freshman year. Like, it was so cute. And then, of course, he was like, I don't really remember having that conversation. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I remember. It's okay.
Typical boys.
It's okay if you don't remember. And he's like, I was such a jerk as a freshman. I was like, no, you were great. So we had like a lovely conversation. But
Oh, that's so wonderful.
yeah, it made me very happy.
This has been such a positive podcast episode. This is so weird for us. On that note, we're going to end the 12th episode of Liberal Arts and Crafts. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this new positive spin.
And we hope that since it is Friday when you'll be listening to this, that you have a lovely weekend. And now, a word from our unaffiliated sponsors.
This episode was sponsored by when you expertly take the gas nozzle out of your car so the meter stops at exactly $20.00.
This episode was also sponsored by Eggs on a Sunday Morning.
This episode was unfortunately sponsored by the realization that you're living in a fascist dystopian society.
This episode was sponsored by Jazz.
And last but not least, this episode was sponsored by WHCL.